Welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we are going to be discussing the Villisca Axe Murders and sort of relating it to the Idaho case where 4 students were murdered in their beds between 3 and 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. So, this will be a pre episode for when criminal profiler John Kelly joins us. He's got lots of interesting thoughts to share. I've been discussing it with him behind the scenes, and he will be joining us on the show very soon. So, make sure that you are subscribed, hit the bell so that you don't miss out on that. Okay, so what I have here for you is a presentation where we'll look at the Villisca Axe Murders and just see if there's anything we can learn from it, because this is a case where there aren't that many cases where someone entered a house and murdered so many people in one go. This was 8 people, 2 adults and 6 children. The Idaho case, 4 young adults, 2 20-year-olds, 2 21-year-olds, and then there's 2 unharmed roommates and a dog that was also unharmed. So sometime around midnight, on June 10th, 1912, so it was on June 9th, right? That's when, right after midnight. So it just turned June 10th, 1912. Sometime around midnight, someone entered a home in Villisca, Iowa. And why someone is because it's an unsolved case, unfortunately, and bludgeoned 8 people to death with an axe while they were in their beds asleep. The reason we study cases sometimes, other cases, is just to see what can we learn about the type of profile that this killer may have, or just crimes like this that happen that absolutely blow our minds. The victims were 2 adults, Joe and Sarah Moore, and 6 children aged 5 to 12. Herman, Catherine, Paul, Lena, Ina, and Boyd. And I believe that some of the children were just visiting, so I think 4 of them were related to each other and 2 were friends of those children and they were just visiting. I don't even think it was their own children. So it's just unbelievable. The Villisca Axe murders are the most notorious unsolved murders in Iowa, and investigations were conducted for a decade, and the primary suspect was eventually acquitted twice in an 11-1 grand jury deadlock. Here you could see a picture of the house. I know that many houses in America look like this, but to me, when I first saw it, I'm like, wow, like what if this in the Idaho case is someone who loves true crime? It's not uncommon for serial killers to love true crime or killers to love true crime. What if it is someone that's inspired by other crimes, like this one, like the Amityville horror, which happened on November 13th, and that was in 1974. So you just never know what could inspire a person like this. Maybe it's got nothing to do with it, and maybe it's got something to do with it. So this is the home, and it just looks like one of those homes where, when at first glance, sound could travel. It's unbelievable that no neighbors heard anything. The only person that claims to have heard anything was the Reverend, who was the guy who was acquitted twice. He's like, oh, yeah, months later, I do actually remember a sound. I remember a scream or something. So that was quite interesting as well. Okay, so we're continuing on. Thank you so much for being here. Now, the killer used an axe found in the backyard. He crept past the rooms. This is important to consider in the Idaho case, okay? He crept past the rooms with the children in to first target the adults. Why would he do that? Why is he creeping around with an oil lamp and then first going to kill the adults? Well, actually incapacitate them. The reason is because you would potentially take out the biggest threat first. So in the Idaho case, it would make sense that the person would try to eliminate Ethan first, a tall, strong, fit male. So it would be plausible to say that the killer would have likely attacked Ethan and Xana first on the middle floor. Another thing that criminal profiler John Kelly told me was very interesting in considering the noise profile of the house. Because if a killer went upstairs first, the risk of hearing thumping or footsteps or someone trying to get away or a scream is very high. And so if you eliminate the people on the middle floor first, then not only do you have a better chance of being undetected when you go upstairs, but also of the bottom floor roommates not hearing a thing, if you can make kind of like a dead space in between. So it could be that as well. Yes, there's lots of farmland in Iowa. Yes, Barbara. So the neighbor could have been a mile away, could have been as well. Yes. To everyone who's joining the live stream today, I will address all of these wonderful gifts later. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Really appreciate it. If you could thank everyone for me, then I could focus on the presentation and then we'll chat afterwards. So this killer first incapacitated everyone. And that's interesting to me because we don't know that the Idaho killer didn't do the same. He could have first incapacitated everyone. I won't get graphic with that. I'm sure you can fill in the blanks in your own mind. But then he went back. This killer went and incapacitated the adults, then the children, then went back to the adults and back to all the children as well, and bludgeoned them all with the blunt end of an axe 20 to 30 times. And then he covered all of them with sheets or clothing that he found in the dresser drawers. So that is also interesting because we don't know how the victims in the Idaho case were found. We know nothing about the crime scene. We know nothing about the sequence of events. We're just speculating, of course. The killer also covered all the mirrors and the glass entry doors in the house with clothing found in dresser drawers. That also reminds me when people say, well, how do we know that Kaylee was in Maddie's room? Apparently, they didn't black out the windows in Kaylee's room, and Kaylee's dad said that they did not find blood on her bed, which also means that her bed was still there, but that she was in Maddie's room. Now, when we have John Kelly on the show, he was talking about a change in the system. And that is just amazing how he words it, because you're looking for anomalies in the days and weeks leading up to these murders. What changed? And one of the changes would be Kaylee sleeping in Maddie's bed. Another change would be, well, Murphy's over there, because none of the neighbors remember Murphy being over there. That doesn't mean that he was never there. But Murphy was over at the house and put in a separate room. Kaylee was sleeping in Maddie's bed. That weekend, they told Adam everything, whatever that means. So there's a lot of changes. And Kaylee had just bought a brand new, or not her own brand new. It's not a brand new Range Rover. It's new to her. It was a 2016 Range Rover, but that was new. And then she's going to start a new job and all that. So there was big changes in the way things always were. So one has to consider all of that as well. So in this case, the Villisca Axe Murders, one victim's nightgown had actually been pushed up, and it was one of the children, right? But there was no sign of SA. And as we've already talked about before, sometimes even though there's no physical sign of SA, an axe or a knife is considered quite an intimate weapon, could be an extension of themselves sexually. And, you know, they could also be so twisted, they could get off on very little. So even just doing that to get them started, you know, before they murder everybody. After the murders, the weapon was partially cleaned. The killer locked all the doors behind him and took the house keys with him. I find that interesting because we do not know, and that would be very hard to determine as well, if this killer in the Idaho case took anything with him. Because how will you know if there's a piece of underwear missing necessarily? You know, how will you know that? But if there's keys missing, if they took the keys to the house, that would be interesting. Or jewelry or something like that. He could have. They oftentimes do. He could have, of course, as we know, they haven't found the weapon. So he could have just taken the knife with him, and that would be his memento, his trophy. This killer in the Villisca Axe Murders left a 4-pound piece of bacon next to the axe outside the murder. So that would be making a statement, is what I would think that would be. There was a plate of uneaten food and a bowl of bloody water left in the kitchen. Again, we've seen this before, like with Richard Ramirez, who's like eating peaches, like after murdering people. My goodness. And here there's a plate of uneaten food. That's so strange. So we don't know what was left in the kitchen. I think there's a takeout place in America called Jack's, right? It's called Jack's In and Out. It's not In and Out Burger. It's Jack's something. Because I actually saw in one of the photos the packet of takeout food that was for Xana and Ethan was Jack's. So then I was thinking, damn, there's even another Jack. There's 3 Jacks and then Jack's the takeout. So they may have gone there that night too. Yes, that's true as well. Shannon says driver's license and ID card. Yes, a lot of killers take that. These days, I wonder, do you think they would still need to do that? Would they need to take a driver's license with them? Because these days you could just you can remember them on screenshots on social media, if you took videos of them without them knowing, things like that. Okay, for anyone joining now, there is a cyclone happening in America, and so John Kelly's power went out, and therefore he's not here with us. He will be here with us at some point in the near future. We will just reschedule it, so don't worry about a thing. I would just never leave you guys hanging or just cancel. I'm not that type of person. So I'm here with you, kind of talking about this from my own perspective, and then we'll have John Kelly on soon, and they will talk about it again. There you go. You guys are like Jack in the Box. Thank you. Jack in the Box. I think that's what it was. Jack in the Box. So there's a fourth Jack, and that's the takeout. Jack in the Box. Yes. So the killer left this 4-pound piece of bacon next to the axe. So I wonder if the killer in the Idaho case made any statements. Did he leave anything behind? Never mind taking something. What if he left something behind? Neighbors did not hear any screams or odd sounds when the murders took place. Of course, as we said earlier, it's farmland. It could have been miles apart or a mile apart. But sound travels there as well. But here as well, no one heard anything. Only the neighbor in Nunn said that he thinks he remembers a scream from, he said that a month later. So he thinks he remembers something. But other than that, no one else has said that they remember anything. People noticed that the victims were not up and about as usual and became concerned. The police were called, they bashed the door down and found 8 victims in their beds. Now, that's the thing in the Idaho case as well. People, the unharmed roommates, noticed, whoa, okay, everybody's not up and about. What is happening? And if they had just looked on Snapchat and if all the victims' phones were on, they would see, but it says they're in the house. But maybe this killer also locked all the doors behind him or them. And maybe they could see, wow, but they're in the house, so let's try call them, like what's going on? And maybe they called them, and each one they tried many times, and no one was responding, and so they called it into 911, which we now know as the unconscious individual. There's a lot of speculation about that. Until we know factually what exactly happened, we don't know. To anyone who's just subbing, just like Laura, thank you, Laura. I hope you inspire many people to do the same thing. Thank you so much for subbing. Now, here, as I say, people noticed that the victims were not up and about, and that was already at like 7 in the morning. Damn. Villisca, Iowa, they got up real early, and they're like, these people are not up and about like normal. So yes, police were called, they bashed the door down, and they found 8 victims in their beds. All of them, of course, brutally murdered with an axe, which can also be a fixed blade weapon. On the morning of the murders, Reverend Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly, Reverend Kelly, left Villisca on a train, and he allegedly told passengers about 8 dead souls in Villisca who were all butchered in their beds. Now, the thing is, the bodies had not been discovered yet. So that is a killer saying things without anyone else knowing about it. Only he would know that, which is why he was the one arrested. But he was acquitted because 11 jurors said he's guilty and 1 juror said he's not. And if it's not a unanimous vote, acquitted. So as I say, I hope that doesn't happen. If Richard Allen in the Delphi case is the one who committed the murders, I hope that that sort of thing does not happen. Now, he was arrested, this Reverend Kelly, in 1914 for sending obscene material in the mail. These days, if a killer were to, number one, talk to strangers or anyone, whoever he's talking to, I don't know, online even, about, oh, yeah, this is what happened and they found this one there or whatever. If they're sharing details that no one knew at the time, that would be a red flag. But also, these days, if they were to send obscene material in the mail, which again, when John Kelly's here, he'll expand on that, of sexually motivated killers that often expose themselves to women, right? And so sending obscene material in the mail, well, they could have just sent it online. It could be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, wherever. But we also know about the Idaho case having a mail-related situation and a search warrant for USPS. So that is interesting to consider that, wow, imagine if this person is quite a copycat or old school and is like, I'm going to mail stuff. In 1917, he was arrested, and Reverend Kelly confessed to the murders. He said that God had whispered to him, suffer the children to come unto me. But a few months later, he recanted his confession at the trial and then claimed police brutality. So you could see that initially this person, we'll get to that in a moment, this person was pretending to be a detective, very involved in the case, inserting himself in the case. But then later it's like, nope, police brutality. So interesting. Again, he was acquitted twice, and no one else has ever been tried for the murders, and the case actually remains unsolved. Man, what did the primary suspect do after the murders? And that would be another whole discussion with John Kelly when he is here with us. He was a drunkard, a peeping Tom. He had a temper, and he was also a reverend in the local church. So what that goes to show is if he's the killer, he could, of course, blend in like Richard Allen at CVS, or like we see in many cases where, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer working in a chocolate factory, doing these jobs where it's just very either you're glowing, looking like an angel, helping everyone, or it's very low key. He had suffered a mental breakdown as an adolescent and had emigrated from England to America in 1904 with his wife. The mental breakdown is the thing to take note of there, because oftentimes, of course, it goes without saying that a serial killer or killer's mental health is in question. He left town for a bit and then talked about the murderers to strangers. So this killer in the Idaho case could have done the same. He could do the same or could have done the same. When he returned, he pretended to be a detective, and he joined a tour of the murder house with a group of investigators. Now, that will be much harder in 2022 to pretend to be a detective and join in, that's going to be a difficult one. But talking to strangers is interesting because sometimes they're either struggling with paranoia or pride. They could feel very proud of what they did and just really want to tell someone. Maybe it's the anxiety or maybe it's the paranoia. He had been previously convicted of sending obscene material through the mail to women in the community. And in 1914, 2 years after the murders, he was arrested for sexual harassment, which again, John Kelly, criminal profiler, talks about sexual predators and, how it's an addiction. It's like an addiction to them. So they're just constantly thinking about that. And so his behavior, if this guy was the killer or this guy who was arrested and acquitted, this profile is interesting because that never stopped. That element never stopped. This guy wrote letters to the family of the victims, investigators, and to the police, and followed all information about the ongoing case. As we know, sometimes killers take, little newspaper clippings. These days, you might have to take a screenshot on Google, but they might keep all of that. They might have a whole file on their computer, keeping everything updated on what's going on with the case, especially if people are getting closer and closer to figuring out who this person may be. So that is interesting as well. Yes, thriving in Beyonce's compulsion, exactly. All right, so thank you so much for bearing with me through that presentation. I really appreciate it. So that is what we've got to discuss, and more at length with John Kelly. I took a whole bunch of notes, but I'd like it to come from him when he talks about all the things that we're going to talk about. So the change in the system, the changes and what that could mean, and all of that. It's going to be brilliant. So we will reschedule that at some point. The thing I wanted to show you was this clip here from News Nation, where they actually talk about police not looking at the inside of stores for surveillance footage of anyone buying a knife, and particularly because knives are so popular to buy there in Idaho. Okay, let's put the sound on and off we go.
We've been hearing a lot in the last 6 weeks about surveillance video, a white Elantra, tips and evidence collection. But one thing we have not heard anything about is the murder weapon, the knife that was used. And today you found out something pretty darn surprising from some of the local stores around town that sell knives. Tell me what you asked and what was answered.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, we're dealing with a period where we don't know all that much new information from the police unless they give it to us. And right now, today, we didn't get any new updates. And so we were digging into what we do know, something that we learned at the very beginning of this investigation.
Do we know this guy? Is this a new guy? News Nation correspondent Alex Caprariello. I don't know how to say his name. He's a nice guy.
What police believe was the murder weapon. They call it a fixed blade knife. I wanted to find out just how easy it is to get one And it turns out just about everyone's got one in Idaho.
Detectives are back to square one, sorting through more than 7,500 emailed tips, more than 4,000 phone tips, and more than 4,500 digital media submissions, all related to the information they have put out publicly. A white car, an approximate time of the murders, and the suspected weapon, a fixed blade knife.
That one switches out all the blades too.
Turns out, hunting
I mean, damn, just look at all these knives. I mean, it's so easy to buy, you know? So why would they look at surveillance? Because you know how much footage they'd have to look through. I mean, maybe they'll get there eventually, but damn, everybody's buying knives, you know? Yeah, JB Gunner says he does seem new. He seems new, right? Also, thank you to everyone who has supported the channel today with super stickers. I see them all on my other screen, and I'm so, so grateful. Thank you for the Christmas wishes. If you're tuning in today or on Christmas, wherever it is, thank you so, so much. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. Yeah. JB Gunner. Every human has a fixed blade knife. Your kitchen set is fixed blade. Is it though? Or do I need to upgrade mine? But it is. You're right. You're right.
culture and owning knives is incredibly common in Idaho. Whether it's a hardware store, a sporting goods store, or an antique shop, you can find a fixed blade anywhere, and you don't even need to be 18 to purchase.
Knives, no, you can buy knives anywhere. Nobody questions that.
The store owners and employees I spoke to say they don't pay attention to who buys or think twice about their intentions. They don't discriminate or ask what they plan to use the weapon for. But after these murders, they say they may put more thought into it before selling.
So this is
I wonder if they should put more thought into it before selling. I mean, why? What would that be? What would that look like? You know, so many knives. What are you going to ask? What are you going to do with it? I mean, people will just lie if they're going to do something really sinister with it. Thank you so much, Miss Dolphin Girl, for being here as well.
something you start to think twice about, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, Well, and, there's a couple things around that I hope nobody picks that up and comes this way.
And I want to make clear that just about everyone I spoke to said they're cooperating with this investigation in any way they can. They want to see it be brought to a conclusion and justice brought to these families. But even still, Moscow police say they have no suspects, no persons of interest, at least that they're letting us know about.
So this is so interesting. Look, I know that knives are common in Idaho. It's a big hunting area, so it's not unusual to have a lot of knife stores. But you were able to at least get to 3 of them today. All 3 of them said they'd been visited by the police. That's correct, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. They said at some point over the...
Right? How are you going to profile buyers? How dumb. You can't... It's not going to work. They're like, maybe we should think about it. Well, good luck with that. You know? Right? So someone's asking, what is this axe throwing thing? Axe throwing is a sport, and they have it all over the world. They have it here in the Netherlands. They have it there in Idaho. And it literally looks like a dartboard, but you throw axes at it. So, yes.
The last 38 days, they've been visited by police and, again, just trying to hand over whatever they could to help provide more context to the police.
So, but the weird thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, because this was astounding in your reporting today, that the police did not ask any of the store owners or managers or workers that you spoke with today. They did not ask them if they had sold a particular kind of knife. That question was...
Why would they, right? They did in the beginning. Barbara is also saying, in the beginning, a store owner or worker came forward and said, well, the police were here asking specifically about a K-bar knife. But based on all the injuries, unless they left that knife sheath there and they could see, wow, it's K-bar, maybe that's why they asked. We don't know that. But the thing is, maybe they also just came forward like, yep, they came here and they asked about it. We don't have those, but we have many others that you can buy. You know, I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying it could also be a publicity or marketing stunt. I don't know, because I haven't heard that again. But in the beginning, they said, store owner said, police were here asking about a K-bar knife. And that's how everyone started, with a K-bar knife and the Rambo knife and the ROTC program and all that, if you remember that. Yes. James says, how do they know it's that specific kind of knife? That's the thing. Unless they left behind that knife sheath, maybe that would be one way. Other than that, it's going to be hard to tell. And still, based on all the injuries that the coroner has been describing, and Kaylee's dad has spoken about, it could be a machete, a long serrated edge knife. It could be all kinds of things, So yes, exactly. Sensationalism and the whole K-bar thing is stupid. Yeah, it could literally be, as I say, an axe, a machete. There's others that I showed yesterday in my stream. I think it was yesterday or the day before. So check that out, because I showed a whole bunch of weapons that it could be, which would all be fixed blade. And as JB Gunner says, you all have one in your kitchen as well. Welcome, Alfonso. All right, so that is the one clip I just want to show you, is that, yeah, they're going around to the stores and seeing, oh, wow, everybody owns a knife. It's a big hunting area as well. So let me quickly look at this. 1 second. I want to show you this so that you can see it. This is axe throwing. I don't think that this is anything to do with it or sinister or, I don't know. Make up your own mind. What do you think? I think this is a pretty cool sport. It's like on target axe throwing. I saw it here in the Netherlands as well. And it looks like this, and you're going to try to throw the axe to the center there. It's kind of like darts with axes. That's what it is, just so you know. Okay. Right. So I just quickly want to check my email to see. Yeah, I know. I think John Kelly lost power for real. He'll be back. That's pretty much it actually for today. So I might just call it a day. I do have other clips, but rather go check out the episode that I made for you earlier, because it's got all the clips in it. All these video clips that I put together for you, and I made some points about it as well. So go and check that out. One comment that I missed says, maybe one, you remember with the Villisca Axe Murders? There were 11 jurors that decided this guy is guilty, and one juror said, nope, he's not guilty. But maybe that one juror was very religious or really respected the reverend or something. We just don't know. And they just couldn't, they couldn't even process that this guy could be the killer, right? It could be something like that. Yes. Shindog says, serious hunting knives are as common as anything in rural America, especially in the West. New subscriber here. Love your work, GK. Thank you so much, Shindog City. Really appreciate it. To everyone, I missed your super stickers. Quickly, Sparkly Little Chicken. Thank you. Gigi, Riley, ES, Mary Williamson, Where the Wind Blows, Cindy, Maria, Kraken Creative Studio, Stuck on Strings, Jinxie, Barbara, Dr. Edward Moskowitz, Lilac Peach, Rochelle Pronzo, we're almost there, Phantasmic Ether, Pam Bogart, Rob, Gigi, Gypsy Girl, Mary, PT, damn, and a few others that I said at the beginning of the stream. Damn, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Your support is amazing. To everyone who is a subscriber and to everyone who's subscribing right now, thank you so much. Right now, the channel is at 99.1K subscribers. Wow. Can we make it to 100K by Christmas or by the end of the year or whenever it is? I'll just be very excited. Thank you so much, you guys. This is a great community. If you're brand new here and you're like, what is this? Over here, we love map time, bullet points, presentations, great guests, and just having conversations. Of course, I always love to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat as well. You're all welcome here. Welcome to the Grizzly community. I cover active, ongoing true crime cases, missing persons cases, and here and there, something like today, like an unsolved case, things like that. So yes, check out the playlist so you can see everything that I've done before. If you are brand new here, if you only joined recently for the Idaho case, then yes, go check out some of my other content as well. Chandler Halderson, Henry van Breda from South Africa. I've covered cases from not that many from all over the world because most of my audience is American or Canadian, and then you guys don't really watch it. But I'd love to cover cases from everywhere. So thank you so much. Barbara says, which one of the girls said, I told Adam everything? Maddie. Kaylee said, Maddie, what did you say to Adam? And she said, oh, I told Adam everything. So yes. And happy holidays, everyone. I'm so sorry it didn't work out today with John Kelly, but don't you worry. We never disappoint over here. Okay. Well, we strive not to disappoint. He will be back. Okay. It was just, I'm so sorry to everyone who also missed this because of the cyclone. I hope you're safe. I hope you're warm. Thank you, mods, for being here. And you guys, I will see you again very soon. If you feel like don't go and you haven't seen my video from earlier, go watch that. You'll get more of me over there. And I will see you again very soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe, okay? Stay warm, and Merry Christmas.